While disasters and climate change are a threat to all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for some communities, their entire existence could be in danger. Thousands of indigenous people living in the northeastern side of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are at risk of losing their lives, livelihoods, or even their entire communities if no serious action is taken to build resilience against climate change. Climate change specialist Dr. Andrew Simmons points a bleak picture for the future of these communities in the next 7 years.
In the next 7 years, I would see if the warming would continue and if the report that been produced by the IPCC, that is the International Panel on Climate Change, those are the thousands of scientists and so on. And if we, by next year and the next 2 years, that we hear such terrible news from the Secretary General of the United Nations, I would see these communities no longer in existence.
Member of Parliament for the area Montgomery Daniel is also concerned about the impact of climate change on these communities. He says the Garifuna people settled here because they were the best lands available to them. But the location of these villages is now putting residents at risk.
These are the lands that the people settled on, along the coast and along the riverbanks. And the effects have now come home to us that these were not the best areas for mankind to have their settlements.
Meteorologist Desiree Neverson-Jack said the biggest threats for climate change for these areas in the coming years are hurricanes, flooding, and coastal erosion. She says these climate disasters are already causing serious harm to the indigenous communities, and action is needed to help them prepare for these events.
Agricultural lands are being washed away, homes are being destroyed, livelihoods are being destroyed, properties are being destroyed. It just disrupts people's life in general. I heard a lady said that because of the lahars, now even when it rains, and it doesn't rain a lot, she calls it a little rain, her home floods at least twice a week.
Some residents of Sandy Bay and Obia, identified by climate expert Dr. Andrew Simmons as two of the most vulnerable communities in the northern part of the island, shared their experiences living with the threat of climate-induced disasters. Sometimes these disasters occur without warning.
When the wind blows, the seawater does get real high. Majority of people across here just have to run out of the house, because the seawater just come right up to the house them. Understand? We're very dangerous. For the past couple of years, seawater always come and break with. And right now, you could see half of the house don't take. Seawater take piece of the house there and everything.
The drought, we banana, we planting, couldn't come nothing. We Tanya, couldn't come nothing because the land was dry. The potato, you plant groundnuts, it just sucky like. And even like you get like the vegetable from the area here. We couldn't really succeed with nothing like in one land. Yeah, nothing at all.
During the night, it was raining, real rain. So we was like hearing the rapture from the stone, them the song. Then we looked, we saw the water coming higher and higher. My mother will have a pig close to the river. So my mother decided she really need the pig, she want the pig. When she going,
the river come down
heavier.
With people's lives and livelihoods on the line, what sort of support is being provided by the government to cushion the impacts of climate change? For Dr. Simmons, who holds a PhD in sustainable development and specializes in climate change, the work being undertaken by the government is not sufficient in helping these vulnerable communities build resilience against the impacts of climate change. He said the government has also failed in providing adequate support to residents in the aftermath of some of these climate-induced disasters.
We have a government here in St. Vincent that we pay lip service. We know what to say. But in terms of the actions, that the action is not being supported. So the government would say something, and then you see they're doing something completely different, you know. So I am not convinced that the government is serious enough. And I'm saying that action speaks louder than words.
The Member of Parliament for the area, however, paints a different picture. He said the government has been doing a lot to assist residents and has undertaken many projects in the area to help protect these communities, including changes to the road network, river and city fence work, with a multi-million-dollar project soon to get underway in the Sandy Bay community.
Wherever there would have been disasters, this government has come out and has helped tremendously. I recall in the 2013 floods, the Prime Minister himself would have gone on radio and television indicating to the general population that if you would have lost even a chicken, report that to the institution NEMO. And so a lot of work would have been done through NEMO for the benefit of a number of persons who would have been affected by a number of these disasters in the area.
One of the government's most important efforts to protect these vulnerable communities from coastal erosion and possible flooding is implementing the city fence strategy. But Dr. Simmons said the government may need to go back to the drawing board on this, noting that instead of placing expensive city fence at the ocean front, a more natural approach can be taken.
If we're going to build walls, like what is happening in Georgetown, we would forever build walls. And as soon as we build these walls, 5 years after, these walls would go because the sea would continue to come in.
The health of residents in these affected communities are also of concern. For some of the residents in the indigenous communities north of the Rabaca Dry River who live near the seashore and the riverbeds, they are not only dealing with dengue, they are also battling anxiety and other health challenges due to the unpredictable weather patterns, including increased precipitation and temperatures.
Me and my last daughter, we are both asthmatic, and sometimes if we don't have, enough fresh air or something, we will have like panic attacks. Sometimes she have high fever. Most of the time it attacks her at night. So most of the time I have to stay up, and sometimes both of us have attack.
Currently, the government is updating the National Disaster Management Plan for better response to emergencies, including climate-induced disasters. The plan is meant to achieve the objectives of a comprehensive disaster management policy that the authorities announced this year. The question is, how will this plan and policy assist the most vulnerable?
The water in the car room there from here. The water in the car room there. If they move me, praise the Lord. Then they move me, praise the Lord. But me not going to no rush because I'm a old man now. You see me, and nobody going to push me there and push me there. Around. You see, all I know, the Lord is good. The Lord providing to the old man all the time.
At a recently held consultation on the government's disaster plan, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, which deals with disaster management, Hudson Ned, said the effort being taken must keep people at the center and ensure the approach to the management of hazards and responses incorporate all the elements necessary for mitigation.
For all of us who are here, I don't think it is difficult to understand that we have seen new dimensions, so to speak, in in disaster, in the impact of hazards on our country, and the intensity at which they come at us. We have a myriad of hazards, even as we forge ahead in the development of our state. We have to contend with natural and man-made hazards. And indeed, comprehensive is a key reference in terms of making sure that we capture all of these elements and to plan for them.
Acknowledging that the government cannot do everything, Dr. Simmons said there are a lot of international funds that can be accessed by non-governmental organizations to assist the vulnerable people and their communities. However, there has been a decrease in NGOs in St. Vincent and the Grenadines over the years, and they are needed now more than ever to help with the fight against the existential threat of climate change.
We have an absence of community groups. St. Vincent used to have in the 80s and 90s, right up to 2000, some of the most vibrant community-based groups in the world.
For the indigenous communities north of the Rabaca Dry River on mainland St. Vincent, time is now of the essence. Their ability to withstand the threat of climate change to their lives and livelihoods will depend on whether serious action is taken. And only time will tell.